Wherever Saturn is, it's going to kind of dampen or restrict the elements. When you have the fiery elements, the enthusiasm of identity, the playfulness of performance, the faith and belief in oneself and one's morality and our understanding. This is the thing, when Saturn's in any one of the fire houses, it's going to dampen the enthusiasm. It's going to make it more conservative and not as spontaneously active. Someone has an Aries rising, how come they're not being impulsive? Is Saturn there? Well, other planets can add other things to it, but Saturn adds this reserve. Slow it down a bit. It can look like a laziness, it can look like a depression, but they're serious. By being serious about your identity or about your performance or about your principles, you're setting up to be conservative. This is the way it is, here's the structure it is, and it limits how much you're being open to other people. And also, it forces you to have to work harder to establish the identity or establish the performance or establish the principles, but in so doing, you're inclined to be on the more conservative side of things. Now, that would be interesting to do a research thing if you had 1,000 Trump supporters and 1,000 non-Trump supporters, and you compared the results to the chart, how many people had their Saturn in which house. You might start to see some of these patterns showing up. What makes someone look conservative, you're aligned one way as opposed to the other. It's a very different thing of people wanting to have a social conscience and wanting to make the world better so that no one is doing without, and there should be rules to pay for that, like Medicare or other things. But then as people say, well, it's hard enough to get what we have. Why should we have to pay for all these other people who aren't doing anything? Why are we being taxed so much? So the grumblers, in my opinion, but that's because I'm on the liberal side of things. But I mean, you can see when you meet enough people, you start seeing people with these things, then they're not all, nobody's all bad or all good. They just have certain ways they're processing. Now, for me, it's always a challenge. When there's someone processing conservatively, I take offense at it, and I start expressing myself really almost angrily, determined to get past their defenses because it's just restricting the information flow. So anyway, we all have our relationship to these things, but when it's in the fire houses, it's going to restrict and dampen the fire. And if you're going to be noticed, you're going to have to be more serious and work harder at it. Okay. When we put it into the houses, see, Saturn's always trying to be practical, down to earth, practical, matter of fact. This is safe, this is conservative, this is real. That's a risk, that's a risk. So that's why it's conservative. It's more limited, more restricted, more structured, not so risk-taking. When Saturn's in the earth houses, the second house resources, the 10th house career, the 6th house skills and work and duty, it's in the practical houses. It works best in those houses. So a little caution when it comes to money and saving things, conserving things is really useful with Saturn in the second house. Saturn in the 10th house is honor and to work to get respect, and all the extra effort to be responsible and take respect. It's worth investing in that. That's practical. That's a real good use of Saturn. Saturn in the 6th house, developing good skills and maintaining good health and working on how to respond to people and how to fix things. That's a really good practical use of Saturn. On a personal level, there's first an inhibition. I can't get enough money. I don't have a high enough position. I don't have anything I can do. That comes in, and out of life you work to get something, and it's practical to do it. You come to this, and as you do this, the rest of your chart opens up. Yeah, so Saturn in the second, the serious restriction around money, around resources. I'm not talented enough. I don't have enough money, but I have to use. If you want to do anything, you have to buy things to be able to use what you have so you can get better. So I'm going to have to save some money, get this, and get things I need so I can start building up what I want to do. I got to start using it, but there's never enough. So the ambition, the inhibition, not enough money, and the ambition to have the money to get things, to accomplish things, that's tied in with the challenge of Saturn in the second house. In the 10th house, it's honor and status. You're up in position, you want the respect, you want more authority, more power. Do you deserve it? Have you worked for it? Are you just using it? It's like Even having the power, having a position of authority doesn't mean you do it well or you deserve to be there. It's healthy when you deserve to be there, but sometimes you can deserve to be there, but someone who doesn't deserve to be there gets elected or gets promoted, and then you got a dishonorable person there. How do you honorably take it? You know, like, you see these things play in politics a lot. Like recently, we had a person was in charge of a party, and he got convicted of, somebody brought up a rumor that he had abused or taken advantage of some younger women sometime in the past. It came up, and suddenly he had to resign from his position. But as soon as he resigned from his position, everybody in his party who wanted to replace him built up and just made him look worse, and tried to take on the power for themselves. So he had the dishonor. He got a position, he got taken out of it. Other people came in, and there's a lot of work to do around that dignity and honor. Those are power complexes, like Saturn in the 10th house. When you look against this background, when you look at politicians or people's charts, you begin to see, oh, look at that. They're processing like that. No wonder I can't get them to agree to this. They're processing like that. So the Saturn in the 6th house is the improvement house, the health, always to improve your health, your service, your ability to be able to, if you're trying to work, do a job for someone, you want to do it well, not just slop it off. So how responsible are you around, how much effort do you make on fixing and improving things, even in your health? So, and problems will come up that you have to fix. That's the Saturn there. But Saturn is most comfortable in dealing with these areas. When Saturn's in the air houses, the communication houses, where you're normally communicating interests and want to express yourself, it dampens and restricts the communication. It makes it cautious communication, makes it serious communication, not frivolous. So it diminishes it. So Saturn in these houses would restrict the poet, or restrict someone. They'd be more difficult to talk to, or they'd always be serious, or they'd be talking about plans for this or that, or a little bossy in how they're talking. It's really defensive. But the Saturn, in the air signs, the discipline and the honor and the dignity of Saturn gets shown as strategy. Get a plan. Make something happen. Follow the plan. Here's the order. Here's the plan. So the mental following a plan. The mind starts aligning with Saturn, and the plan, Saturn's inclined to make plans in these air houses. Not that everyone else is going to like the plans, but they have plans. And then the challenge is to live up to them. So challenges to personal expression in the 3rd house. It's inhibited. It's cautious. It's not so quick to talk to people, or it's worried about where family or things being said. It's difficulty getting education. But at the same time, it has plans for what it knows. I know this, I can plan to do this, I'm thinking this, I want to accomplish this. So Saturn in the 3rd house of expression is planning to improve the expression. When it's negative, it's just saying, I never can fix this. It becomes conservative, restricted, limited expressions, uneducated rather than educated. Okay, challenge is to get educated, to get informed, to do it right. So even if you're bossy, you know what you're talking about. Makes a big difference. In the friends, you're trying to affect the thinking of your friends. You're trying to influence your friends and their relationships so they respect you. So you're going to have to work to get the respect of your friends. And that way you might have to be really informed about what's the common denominator between you, and establish things that reinforce that. You might have to hold some parties or hold some meetings where people can come and meet with you, where people of like mind can come and meet with you, and that's okay. But it's something you would work towards. It's not something you'd be frivolous about. And the tendency might be there because it's not naturally a lot of friends. There's a seriousness there. So at work, you do some function that pulls people together, you get a bit more status, people know you more. That would be a big accomplishment. But feeling you don't have that, no one's there, why bother? That's the negative side of Saturn in that friendship communication house. Having friends, using them, being able to express your ideas and influence them to get them to do what you want or what you're thinking, to follow your plan. That moves up to your career or your status more. In the seventh house, it's sharing with the partner. So Saturn is, hi, hon, how you doing? What's happened? This happened to me that day that I had to go through this. I met so-and-so. I taught the normal blah, blah about relationships. But Saturn in the seventh house might not want to express what they went through, might not be so communicative about sharing their ideas with a partner, or might feel the partner doesn't share enough. It tends to be defensive in the communication. What do you mean tell you I love you? It's enough. I love you. We're being together. Don't ask me to have to say it in words. Whoa. So there's a restraint and restriction that creates an archetype or a caricature that has the serious side of Saturn, and people read into it that it's going to be that. But really, it's just the warning of not letting yourself go that far and working so that it isn't that. Okay. When we get down to the water houses, these are the irrational houses. Saturn's not so comfortable in the rational. The worry, the reserve and the conservativeness of Saturn, or the defensiveness of Saturn, becomes an emotional, defensive brooding in the water signs. So it's more inclined to get a little more depressive, a little bit more, or water houses to get a little bit more, to fester on the restriction. So if Saturn's in your fourth house, home was never good enough, and I never had enough security. I wasn't there, and there's a tendency just that's so, and you could work on getting your own security, but there becomes an emotional element, emotional feeling associated with that tends to be, it would tend to be a little more depressed or moody. In the 12th house, there's again an emotional quality of whether one fits in or not fits in. I've worked very hard for different groups and teams, and then they make decisions that go against me directly, and I take it personally. How could they do that? They know I've been working on this. So this happens. It's just part of the bigger scheme. Other people weren't going after me intentionally. They were just doing it a different way. But that emotional quality of what's right or wrong, or the conscientiousness of how it should be, I've had many battles in that area where I took losses and I had to work to find my own bearings and realize it's not coming from there. I got involved with a lot of different astrology groups, founded groups, was involved with groups to try and get my way of teaching evolved. But everyone has their own way of teaching, and they're not, my way's a slice. It's a certain type of people want to understand things this way. And it threatens some of the other teachings. It shouldn't. It should just be an add-on. Anyways, this is some of my complexes. Saturn in the 8th house is going to be cautious about its water. It's cautious about trust and faith, trust in themselves. I need some money. Can I borrow it from you? Do you trust me? I'll get it back to you. I'll trust it. So there's a conservative, a reserve, a defensiveness, a restriction around trust, around the resources that one have, or how it might make you too serious about how we spend our money. So if you have Saturn in the 8th house and the husband and the partner, husband, wife, goes out and just buys a car without telling you first, it's going to be a huge threat. Because it was done without your respect, without your trust, without your decision. Of course, if they asked you, they probably wouldn't get a permission anyways. But then all the other parts of our chart, it's just one of the roots of the tree. Each planet's like a root of a tree. It's just one of them. It's one voice that's going on there. And the sense of respect and responsibility, the inhibition will come. But in these signs, there's an emotional quality to it. So if a partner spent money that didn't talk to the other person about, they feel their trust was not respected, it would become an emotional, how could you let me down like this? That Saturn, there's a brooding quality of Saturn in the water houses. Okay.